So, without further ado, uh, an absolutely amazing individual that I have the pleasure of speaking with today, Paul Potratz of Helderburg. I don't even know how to begin to describe Helderberg outside of the fact that they are simply some of the most incredible vehicles on the planet, quite frankly. And Helderberg, HELDERBURG.com, based out of Sharon Springs, New York, investment quality restorations. And thus, Paul, why don't you please explain the amazing genius of Helderberg?
I appreciate that. Well, thank you. I think the biggest thing to really point out, or why I started the company, though, I started it as a lifestyle company, and coming up with the name Helderberg, I used that name because it was a strong, at least I felt would be a strong European name that could have the potential to grow bigger than what my name could ever grow. And I think it was just the best explanation to be able to say, hey, this is a lifestyle company, because I didn't want to be known to be just building Land Rover Defenders, because it really is, in my mind, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle, it's just a way of thinking.
Yeah, agreed, absolutely, and it absolutely is. And those that are fortunate enough to discover you and then invest in these restorations and amazing vehicles, it's very much a lifestyle purchase. It's not just simply walking onto a lot and buying a brand new Range Rover or Land Rover or what have you. It's actually purchasing something that they may have dreamed of their entire life, or they just discovered it. But it is absolutely, as you just put it so perfectly and eloquently, it is a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too. I mean, my own personal experiences, I remember growing up as a child, and my grandmother got me, she ordered a subscription to National Geographic. And while all my friends wanted to look at National Geographic for, the nude shots, I was looking at it for the classic Land Rovers that were in there. So I was drawn to it years ago. And
Huh.
then I remember the show, The Mutual of Omaha, that where they would have the classic Land Rovers in there. And I've got a number of clients that they remember these shows too, and they always dreamed of having a Land Rover. And it's not because it's a Land Rover, but for what it symbolizes in adventure and
Yeah.
exploration and doing something. So it really is a nice way to break away from the grind of all the technology and all the talk about AI and everything else, to just get in the vehicle and feel like you can go anywhere, even though you just might be on, the back roads heading to Starbucks.
Yeah, or just on the city streets. And so, how old were you when you conceptualized bringing this lifestyle to fruition?
I was pretty old, actually, because
So it wasn't when you were first looking at the National Geographics.
no, I never envisioned that whatsoever. That's not what it was all about. I mean, other than I did make a cardboard Land Rover that I used to dream about, that one day I would own a Land Rover, but that was never the thought. But I grew up in, I guess you could say, in the business, because my dad had a repair shop, a body shop. So for extra money, I would go and I would, do the sanding on a car, or I would do something like that. But that was never my mission, my goal, because when I was young, my goal is I wanted to be an attorney, was my biggest goal. And I wanted to essentially wear a suit every day, carry a briefcase, and have that city life. And going through school, that was my entire goal. And then to the point of, when I started college too, that's what I did. And I went to work in white collar. That was my entire career for well over 20 years. And then when COVID hit, I decided to take a road trip. Everything else was crazy. So I hopped in one of my classic Land Rovers, because I have had several over the years, and headed out on a trip from New York to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and stopped along the way visiting friends, and just visiting with a friend. And he's like, "You love these trucks. Why don't you start a business like this?" And I was like, "Nah. But I had my social media profile that I just set up, which was September 11th, 2019. And the amount of messages that I kept on getting, people wanting to buy my personal truck. Finally, on that road trip, I said, you know what? I'm ready for a change. I want to do something epic with my life. I want to create a legacy. And it just tied in everything that is important to me because, growing up, I mean, some of my hobbies were, photography and drawing and poetry and fashion design, I guess you could say, because that's how I used to pick up the girls, is I would make them clothes because I had a sewing machine, my grandmother's, and so
That's
it
fantastic.
just kind of all worked, and I wanted to
I've
take a
never
different,
heard that one. That's a good one. I love
yeah,
it.
but it just all played into effect because, my Land Rovers that I was building for myself was years because I'd bought custom Land Rovers, paid a lot of money from other builders, but I was just never really satisfied. They lacked the soul that I was looking for. So that's how it really all started. It was just a game of chance. It was never meant to be. And
Mhm.
even today, when I talk to a prospective client, I don't take everybody's order because some of their thought process of what they want doesn't align with what I want to create. And I don't mean that
Yeah.
arrogantly, but I worked enough years, did the grind, did the hustle, that this is, the final stage of my life, I guess, the way I feel, and I want it to be enjoyable.
Yeah. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. And isn't that's such a beautiful thing about life is, and COVID did have some silver linings in general, and then also for it is it became one of your greatest silver linings, and how iconic that you were taking a trip to Jackson Hole. That's on my bucket list, and I hope to get there this summer. I've done a number of ski towns, but I still haven't done Jackson Hole.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's the perfect landscape. Well, any landscape's perfect for a classic Land Rover, but it's
It's absolutely was meant to be.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And what along with, and that's impressive that people on Instagram were specifically just wanting to buy your personal vehicle that they saw.
Yeah, well, that's what I was showing. And I mean, that was the whole idea of when I created my social media profiles using the name Helderburg.
Mhm.
Because it was September 11th, 2019, I put up my Helderberg account. And September 19th, I put up my Facebook account. And just sharing. I wanted to share my pictures. Fashion is a big part of my life. I wanted to share pictures of me and my outfits. I wanted to share pictures of my dog, share my photography, because photography is a big part of my life. Collecting things that are timeless is a big part of my life, whether it's fountain pens or watches or motorcycles. And that was my way to share it. And I felt like if I was putting it under, well, I knew if I put it under the Paul Potratz social media profiles, because I mean, had a successful company and my employees would see it and they wouldn't really understand it. They would feel like I was being a narcissist or I was bragging. So they would want
Right.
raises. And then my clients would see it and then they would feel like they were paying me too much. So this was my witness relocation program, basically, is what it was on social media. And just by
Uh,
using hashtags, I figured the right people would find it that would have the same interest as me. And it was a way for me to meet other people that were like minded because where I live in this area, I mean, it's really hard to find people. And I think it's that way anywhere because I mean, I guess the things that I like is just not the mainstream. And it's been a
oh, right.
beautiful thing because I mean,
Absolutely. And
and
that's why people started reaching out to you because those are people that are not necessarily the mainstream. They're looking for something special, such as what you have conceptualized and been passionate about for years and created. It's such a beautiful, magnificent story. And just so I'm looking at your beautiful website, the 5 steps to your custom. Tell me about that.
yep. It always starts with a conversation with me because I want to make sure that that prospective client that their vision aligns with what we really do. And so it always requires a conversation. And it also, not only their vision needs to align with mine, but what is a classic Defender Land Rover? What does it really mean? Because a lot of people have never seen one in person and absolutely never
Yeah.
driven one. So it's important that they understand what it is and what it's not.
Right. Right.
So it starts with that conversation. And then it's also just deciding what model would be best for them. Is it a two-door, a four-door, a pickup truck, what type of engine? So it really is just a fact finding.
Mhm.
And then they say, okay, I'm good to go. Let's go. Then I do a build sheet for them that outlines the price and how long it's going to take, because it can take up to 3 years to build one of our, build a Helderburg for them. So again,
Right.
they need to
And it
understand
sounds a
that.
little bit similar to building a yacht on a certain level.
It, yeah, it really truly is. I mean, and uh, and it's important that they understand that and have realistic expectations of how long it will take. And then they do a 50% deposit, which gives them a build slot, locks it in, and then we start building. I mean, not immediately, it takes a little while, but we start building, and then they get to experience the build with pictures and videos as I'm sharing as we're going through the process. And then ultimately we get it finished, and it comes here to because I live on a horse farm. So it comes here to the horse farm because I have two shops. I have one that's in England and one in Portugal. That's where I build. And when it comes here, I get to drive it. So it was really I guess, a selfish thing for me, because I like things, I like change, I guess you can say. And so therefore, all my neighbors think I'm probably a drug dealer or something, because I'm in a different colored Land Rover Defender basically every day of the week. And
Right.
but I
You're
drive
probably
it.
right.
Yeah.
You're probably
And
right.
then we
And
we
sorry, my just
photographed it.
my picture is frozen for some reason on probably on your end, maybe not. But yeah, no, they probably do think that you are you're out of
Yeah.
uh, you're out of Ozark, the series. They
Yeah,
wonder
exactly.
what you got into during COVID. But it's and that is an example, or it's a thank you for sharing that as well. It's a perfect way to just further detail how it is very much a lifestyle purchase. And I would imagine that a number of people that they think that it's something that they would want, but then they do actually get in it and drive it, and they realize that it's not, again, the brand new one that comes off the lot, because it is a different ride. It's
It definitely is a different ride, but it's very comfortable. It's very powerful. It does everything that you would expect a modern vehicle to do, but the difference is it actually has soul. And some people will understand it and others won't, but it is soul. It's a driver's vehicle. It's a way to get away from the grind and get away from all the technology, even though it does have tech. I mean, you have heated seats, and you have Apple CarPlay, and you have a backup camera, and you have all of these things. But the best way to explain it, the way my clients explain it, that the exterior, the paintwork and the attention to detail and the fit and the finish is the best they've ever seen. And when they get inside, it's very reminiscent of what you would imagine an English library or a cigar bar to be like, because our
mhm.
interiors are the plushest in the world, that our interiors rival a brand new Rolls Royce or a Bentley. And this is what clients are telling us. And the exterior and the paint job is better than any paint job that you could ever go to a car lot, whether it be Rolls Royce, Mercedes, Bentley. It doesn't make a difference that our paint, and because our paint is all custom. So the colors are very exquisite and different and not normal. And so are the interiors. And I mean, the interiors are made out of a Scottish leather that has a thickness of a boot. So your dogs can run all over it, because I have two Italian Mastiffs that I take pretty much everywhere. But you smell the leather, and then sometimes we incorporate a perforated leather or Harris, a Harris wool, Harris Tweed wool, whether it's on the headliner and the seats. And, we do custom billet aluminum around the gauges, and we do engraving on the door handles. So, I mean, and then black walnut flooring in it. So, I mean, it's very different. And the result of that is we've done a lot of builds, let's put it that way, but
Mhm.
it's over the course of the years, there's only been 3 of them that ever went for sale on the secondary market. The clients
Ah,
keep at their Helderberg. And it's the emotional, I mean, they are heirloom builds,
right.
and
They're
it's the
heirloom and they're
emotional,
bespoke.
completely bespoke. Every Helderberg gets a name. So it has a name, it has a story, it has meaning behind the story. So it becomes part of the family. And it's like where
Right.
I'll talk to clients and, like we just did a podcast with a client and he was talking about how it's a big part of his family and that he has got 2 twins and they've, we built his Helderberg about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and it's part of the family. It's where they're making experiences. And I asked him, I
Right.
said, would you ever sell it? And he said, no, absolutely not. I will never
Right.
sell it.
Right.
So,
Right. He'd rather lose his home and everything else than sell it. I get it. And it's emotional on so many different levels, and it becomes a part of the family. Just
yeah,
it's that significant, and they are so bespoke that it is it's them,
yeah.
the person that was fortunate enough to discover you and then go through the process with you. It's an emulation and reflection of who they are, and you bring that to life for them.
Yeah, it's one of a kind. I mean, we rarely recreate a creation, and that's one of the unique advantages. I mean, because there's a lot of people that do what we do. There's hundreds of
Yeah.
companies
Oh
that are
yeah.
doing exactly what we do,
Oh yeah.
but we're the only one known that that each one is one of a kind. It's unique, and I get it whether it's clients or we have 200,000 people that follow us on Instagram, and they always comment whenever I see a Helderberg, I know it's a Helderberg. I mean, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, they're all classic Land Rover Defenders. What we're building, what everybody else is building, but it really is the fine detail. It's the attention to detail, all of the little individual things that make the total build. And that's what makes it so different. I mean, because there's a lot of the parts on a Helderberg, it's all custom done. And we are the only builder in the world that does that.
That's amazing. And so, to go back for a second, since you touched upon it, when you first realized that you were going to bring this to completely to fruition and do it, so did you even analyze the competitive market space with, because you're right, I mean there are so many competitors, and you just said it didn't even matter to you because you knew what you were doing was not being done.
Well, I mean, I had purchased 3 different builds from other builders, well known. And while all of their trucks are nice and they all fit a purpose, it just wasn't what I was looking for. I mean, I, I, I consider myself, and this is kind of weird, I know, but I consider myself to be a country gentleman, and there's things that I really appreciate and things that I like. And I couldn't
Mhm.
find anybody to do that because the builds that were out there for classic Land Rover Defenders, they're all trying to be trendy. And this is not a vehicle that you want to be trendy on. And this is a vehicle that you want to be timeless on. So selfishly, I said, that's it. I can build a better one myself. So I started traveling to, England, UK a lot
Yeah.
and finding craftsmen that could build the individual parts that I felt, starting with a cylinder head. That was my first plan of action. How do I get a better cylinder head for the engine? Because one of the known issues are blown head gaskets. So I
Yeah.
wanted to alleviate that problem, but I also wanted more low range, mid range torque. I mean, because I'm driving my classic Defender all over the country, whether it was to Wyoming or whether it's to go see the lighthouses through Maine and New Hampshire and Nova Scotia. So I know all the issues, and on top of that, I grew up with it. So it was
Yeah.
just a selfish pursuit to say, how do I build myself the ultimate classic Land Rover Defender that I can drive every single day? Because I love the looks of them, and after I'm like, that's it. I'm not going to spend $250,000 again on another build. I went out and
Mhm.
I bought a rusty one. I sold those.
Yeah.
I updated them, bought a rusty one, and started from scratch. And
That's what
fast forward, and here I
that's
am.
a barn find, right? When you find an old rusty one, it's a barn find.
More or less,
Somewhat.
yeah. It was actually a
Yeah.
buddy of mine that from Argentina that moved to New York, and he had it in his garage, and he was driving it. He's a famous photographer, and he was using it as to haul photo gear and all that. I mean, this is a guy shooting for Drew Barrymore and Sting and everybody else. So it kind of had this romance to it. And I remember walking in the garage and seeing that white Defender 110 and just going, oh, sell it to me, sell it to me, sell it to me. And he wouldn't sell it to me. And then finally, a few years later, he sold it to me, but it was rusty. It was beat up. It was ugly, but it was beautiful to me. And I just wanted to make it a daily driver and drive it to work. I mean, I'm running a company that's highly successful and going to see clients, and I'm showing up in my old classic Land Rover Defender. And it was definitely a conversation piece, and they still are today. But now the heat works well, the air conditioning works well, I can do hands-free calls, and it replaced my Bentley because it's that comfortable.
That's fantastic. And do you, as you continue to evolve with what you are doing, do you still discover things that you hadn't thought of that then you begin doing?
Oh yeah.
Or do you have it mastered at this point?
No, you never have it mastered. I mean, and that's part of a budget that I actually assign. And then I have 3 guys that every week we do our R&D, research and development calls. So we're constantly finding new things. And I mean, even things that we checked it off and said, all right, we're done with that. We're good with that, that we end up going back and revisiting it and saying, how do we make it better now? So yeah, it's nonstop with that, because I mean, if we just stayed static, then we're no different than, let's say, Blockbuster. And
Right.
It's the fun. It's my stress relief. It's what I enjoy doing. And I know I drive some of the guys that work with me crazy, because a lot of times people don't like doing things 2 and 3 and 4 times and repeating it. But that's what I thrive on.
Well, and when you're creating a bespoke product such as this for someone, you have to be a perfectionist. I mean, I would think.
I think you do. Yeah, I think you should. And
that's what they expect.
I don't know what the client, I mean, the clients are really, they're not into this, at least the vast majority, I would say. Well, no, I'd say all my clients, they're not into the specs. It's, the specs and the performance and all that. I mean, there's people out there that are into that, but those aren't my clients. My clients are into the story that it tells.
Right.
The story that tells about who they are. Because a lot of my clients are ultra high wealthy, right, and they've worked hard, they've been very successful, and they want something that tells a story and has meaning. Because they can go to any dealership and buy any type of car that they want to buy, whether it be a LaFerrari or a Pagani, right, or whatever, but they want something that tells a story, is uniquely them, and is something that no one else has. And so it's not a thing about specs. So, I mean, a Helderburg sells itself, but it's the story that the client wants to be able to tell about their adventure and their family experiences and all that. And that's really what I focus on a lot with the client, is understanding who they are, so I can build something that is uniquely them and their personality. And hence I think it's been successful, because we don't have any of them that go on the secondary. Well, rarely we have any that go on the secondary market, which is a beautiful thing. And I have a number of clients that own 3 or 4 Helderbergs.
That was one of my next questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, I have a client that he owns 7. So it's
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and
really
so as
is.
you're building that many for that individual per se, do they all tend to be the same from the first one you built for him, or does he actually learn more about himself and they all become different?
Completely different. Yeah. So, I mean, granted, I have a client right now, we're building 2 for him, and we're building a silver one, a silver 110, which is the 4-door wagon, and we're building a dark blue 110 4-door. So we're building the 2, but he's going to have 2 at his home in Montana. And so those are somewhat similar. The interiors are similar, and the exterior is a completely different color. But then I have other clients that they like to collect them, much like myself, that they want a 2-door hardtop, 2-door soft top, a 4-door pickup truck, a 4-door bigger pickup truck. So they are, the way I define it when I'm talking to them, I'm like, I get it. You want the entire collector set. So it's kind of like when we were
Yeah,
little boys and we were collecting Hot
yeah.
Wheels.
I was
So,
just thinking that.
yeah.
And does it tends to be men, right?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
Yeah, no. And that's what I thought would be originally, but I have a lot of women clients, a lot. And
That's fantastic. That surprises me,
it's,
but that's great.
yeah, it's amazing. So I have a lot of women clients that love cars and have a nice car collection. And then I have a lot of women clients that them and their husband are not really necessarily into cars. They have a couple cars
Hmm.
that like them. And then I have a lot of women clients that say, you know what, it's rugged, but it's luxurious and it's romantic. And which is weird that those words all go together, rugged,
Yeah,
luxurious, and romantic. But
yeah.
that's what they see. And in fact, we were recently in Nashville and Atlanta, and we had a couple on display. And the amount of women that would stop and grab their husband and go, "Oh, that's what I want,"
Huh.
was
That's
amazing.
fascinating. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. If
No,
I ever
it's
saw an amazing woman driving Helderberg, I would chase her down because that's just to me it seems like more of a male driven vehicle, or that would be where the interest lies. And so I think that's I think that's really great and powerful that is the case.
yeah.
And
Well, we have a lot of clients too, female clients that, they have a G wagon because you think about it. A lot of times, a woman would have an SUV, something bigger and up higher, so she can, see around her better. But a lot of G wagons. We have a lot of clients that either currently own a G wagon, have owned a G wagon in the past, or was considering a G wagon. So it's just interesting. And this is the alternative to a G Wagon for a number of reasons. One, they drive nicer than a G Wagon. The value's going up higher than what a G Wagon is. And if you want a G Wagon, you can go to Auto Trader, and at any given time, there's about 1,200 of them for sale right now.
right, right.
You can't find a
And so
Helderberg like that.
and you mentioned previously that I believe it was only three have been uh, on the aftermarket, and also though with something as special as the Helderberg is, there really is if of the very few that do go into that sector for whatever reason, you can't. I mean, you can't even really put a value on it, right? It's based on some. I mean, right? It doesn't have any specific value, just like a a, a Bronco rebuild or something to that effect, or a Jeep. It doesn't. There's no. It really comes down to just what someone's willing to pay for it, right?
It comes down to what somebody's willing to pay for it. But for example, where we had one of them that went to the secondary market, but the description wasn't as well as it should be, and it was early on in our career. I mean, keeping in mind, Helderberg didn't sell the first custom Defender until mid spring 2020. So we're a new
Hmm.
company. And
Yeah,
when that one went up for sale, we were a new company. We didn't have all the things in place that we have now and all the advancements. So, you know, that one, it sold for more than what the client paid for it, but it doesn't sell for as much as they do now. Like if, recently we had a client sell one, and he made a pretty good profit off of what it was.
I,
And
I would imagine so,
yeah, and
and
part
I would assume. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and part of our agreement too that we do with all clients is whenever we build a Helderberg for them, part of our contract says you cannot sell it within the first year, and if you decide to sell it, you have to come back to us and give us right of first refusal
Huh.
that for us to buy it back. And
Smart.
so technically, if and within the first year, they will either buy it back or that gives them the opportunity to sell it. But fortunately, we don't have any clients wanting to sell them. So or unfortunately, because I get a lot of people going, where can I get a used one? Thinking that they're going to save money, but you're not going to save money. So,
Right. You can scour the earth, but you won't find one.
no, you'll find counterfeit ones
Yeah.
because we have some builders out there, like we have a builder that's in not California, in Florida, and all through their website. I mean, they're a publicly traded company. They talk about how they've built over 600 Defenders and how they've, one of the oldest around and all that. But you go through their website and they're naming trucks Helderburg on their website, trying to get the SEO value. So they're using our name. And I'm like, really? Do you really need to do that? I mean, we're a very niche company, but
Yeah.
so you have to be careful on the market. There's a few of them that are out there right now that are advertised as Helderbergs that are not a Helderberg. It does not have the certificate of authenticity. It doesn't have the stamps that are under the bonnet or anything. So, but I have friends that say, well, you should be flattered. And I'm like, well, I'm really not. That's just kind of not right. So,
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one way to put it. I'd also call it deceptive advertising and marketing and salesmanship, but
yeah,
thus is the world, right?
it is. I mean,
Unfortunately.
it is. Yeah. And I mean, they're buying Google AdWords with our name. A
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
builders are.
Yeah,
So it
absolutely.
is what
Yeah.
it is. I guess it's just if somebody wants a fake Rolex, they'll go for that. And if they,
Yeah. And then you can go after all of it, but at the same time, it's ultimately
it's a
you can't, it's almost
distraction.
impossible to completely stop it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's just a
And
distraction.
the
So I'm
most
like,
unfortunate part is that if someone gets duped into thinking they're getting a Heldberg and they're not, uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's part of it.
obviously.
So
Well, my friend, I'm very humble and grateful to have had 34 minutes of your time, and I don't want to take too much more of it. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you'd like to mention, or anything I didn't ask you? And I hope we get to do this again because I could speak to you. I know we've barely even scratched the surface of talking about stories and whatnot that you have from some of the clients that have bought them and so forth. But so, thus, is there anything that I didn't ask before I let you get on to your Friday out in amazing New York?
yeah. I think the biggest thing of that I always like to share is I'm not in the business of building classic Land Rovers. I mean, the whole idea of the meaning behind Helderberg is really to buy things that are timeless, buy fewer things, things that will last a lifetime, because those things that are timeless and will last a lifetime are the ones that are going to create the best memories, the ones that are collectible, and the ones that you can pass down to your family members. Because, I mean, there's just so many trends out there, and those fleet away after a matter of time, and I
And they
think it has a
fleet
lot
away,
more meaning.
and they fleet away quicker and quicker now. With
Yeah,
social media and just the amount that people are bombarded. I think I saw something recently. The average American, the attention span is 3 to 4 seconds,
yeah, it's
and
less than a goldfish.
right. No, and that then correlates with trends that can come and go so quickly. But with a bespoke, timeless, uh, really, well, not really, but unparalleled Helderberg, for those that are passionate about it and are able to discover it, it's something that you never let go of. And
Yeah,
you are very humble and grateful that you were able to discover a genius such as yourself who created these on a trip to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and you weren't even planning on it.
no,
You didn't have the concept, but also you owe a lot of gratitude to National Geographic due to when you were a
yeah,
kid and building the your first model of out of cardboard, right?
exactly. Yeah, that my mom said, "You got to get that out of here. That's a mess. We don't need that in the yard." So, yeah,
Paul Potratz of Helderberg, HELDERBURG.com, Sharon Springs, New York, and simply one of the greatest entrepreneurial stories, and just absolutely something that's really fascinating and amazing that you have created this, and the what will come in the future is probably absolutely exceptional as more and more people own them. And then it's really incredible. So compliments and thank you very much for taking the time. And it's been an honor to have been able to work with you on the first feature we did in these spring issues. And I look forward to hopefully doing this again as often as you would like to. And uh, I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate yours. And, as payment for my time, since you mentioned it, is I'll take a black Helderburg.
A black
And
one? Come on, I've already done black. We can work
all right,
something out.
all right, my friend. Have a great weekend. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you.